in Genesis, and that's where we find the prototype for marriage. When you go to Genesis, from the very beginning, Adam was in that garden. He had no idea that anything was missing. He was so content. He was walking around that garden, naming plants, animals, trees. He had no clue. It was God that looked at him and said, if I leave this guy like this, it'll be a disaster. So he says, Adam, it's not good for you to be like this. Let me make you a helper. And Adam is like, well, good. Oh. God said, no. I'm telling you, you are not good. He said, no, we're good. So I said, you are not good. It's not good for you to be alone. Let me get you someone. And then God brings, you see, you must understand that God did not start from Eve. God started giving him options. So for those of you who are thinking there must be one supernatural man that God is just going to create for only you, it's a lie. God will give you many godly options. Because people ask me that question all the time. Pastor M, is there only one person for you? There can't be only one person for you. Because if there was only one person for you, somebody else could have made the mistake of marrying that person and we'll all be stuck. And if you're Nigerian like me, I can guarantee you that if it's in Nigeria, somebody has married your own. And if they've married my own, I will marry your own. All of us must be in problem. I can't be the only one that will be confused about somebody has married. No, we must all be. That's how Nigeria is. I don't know about how this is here, but if there's a problem, all of us must suffer it. We all have to suffer it together. So, if there was really only one person, by now, they would have spotted it. So God brought godly options. He brought options. He brought the lion. And Adam looked at it and said, no. The way this one's teeth is, if I try to kiss this lion, I'll be in trouble. So he said, lion. And the Bible says that it was what Adam called them that they became. So you are the one who decides who your spouse is. They must connect with you on different levels. So as a single person, don't just go into marriage because everybody's getting married. Don't even go into marriage because that's the necessary next step to take. Because you've finished high school, you've gone to college, and now you just want to, you've gotten a job, and the next thing is marriage. That's not why you get married. You must be very clear on why you are getting married. Because there are moments and times in marriage where Satan will bring doubts. Ask any married person. There are times you wake up and you're wondering, what am I doing here? Is this the best I could have done? But if you've settled the why, forever and ever, whenever that thing comes up, you know that, no, this is the best I could have done. This is it. This is where it ends. Nobody else. And so the Bible tells us that it was what Adam called them that they became. And so when God brought Eve to him, he was the one that said, this is now bone of my bones. This is flesh of my flesh. And he determined what she would be called. He said, call her woman. He could have called her anything else. He said, call her woman. So when you meet someone, you are the one that determines what that person will be in your life. And let me tell you, the person you marry has the ability to change the course of your life. I'll end with this as I'm bringing Pastor Kingsley up in a few seconds. When I was in final year in Ife, so I started dating someone. He was a doctor. I finished school before him, so we continued dating. It was long distance and all of that. And it seemed like a perfect plan for me because the plan he had was in line with the plan I had for my life. So the plan I had for my life was that I was going to move to the UK, have my children here, and all of that. So he was also a doctor, and so we worked in line with that plan. He came here to do his master's. I was doing my master's in Nigeria, and the plan was that we would get married, and then I would move here. And then at one point, God said something to me, and this is why, as a single person, I say spend time getting to know God. It's important that you know God. It's not only when you want to get married that you now want to hear the voice of God. Like I said, I started hearing from God as a student on campus. Pastor Temi taught me, literally sat with me one day in Sports Center and opened the scriptures and told me how God speaks. And so I started my relationship with God, God would speak to me about different things. There were so many things that God used to speak to me about. And so I had this relationship with God. And so I knew how God speaks to me. God always speaks to me through the word. So it was very clear. So I was in this relationship, and one morning I was going to take a bath. And then I felt this unusual presence of God. Like I knew God wanted to speak to me. And so I went into my room. And as I was in that room, I was worshiping. And then this CD, I had this CD player. And then I had this CD, Donnie McClurkin's CD. The one, Yes, I Will Trust You, Lord. I don't know if you guys know that song. And so just before he starts singing, there's a part where he starts out saying things like, what if I ask you to let go of the very thing you hold so dear? And then he says, yes, I will trust you. And I was singing along. Oh, you need to hear me. I'd been doing different things that morning. Really singing very loudly because I was the only one in my room. Shouting to the top of my lungs. Yes, I will trust you, Lord. Feeling very spiritual with myself. And then when I finished, I started reading about the woman at the well. Where Jesus met this woman at the well, and he was, give me water to drink. And the woman said, I'm a Samaritan, and you're a Jew. You must be really thirsty for you to ask me for water. And Jesus said, if you know the gift of God that is asking you for water, you would ask in turn, and he will give you water, and you will never need to thirst again. And this woman said, give me this water so I will not need to thirst again. And Jesus said something. Jesus said, go and call your husband. Now, I don't have the time to go into details of all that happened in that scripture. But one thing I knew was that God was about to give her something that would change her life, water that she would not need to thirst again. And the first thing he said was, go and call your husband. Which means that the person you marry can either make or mar you. So I can give you this water and that person won't let you use it. And so she said, I don't have a husband. And Jesus said, you rightly said, for the man that you're with is not your husband. And it seemed like someone had used a highlighter pen to mark that part out for me, that the man you're with is not your husband. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it funny. In fact, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, Holy Spirit, rough play. The man I'm with what is not what are you talking about? Like, I was so upset. Like, how are we having this conversation? Now, let me explain. I dated this guy for 5 years. And we had done introduction. And now, all of a sudden, sir, you are saying to me that the man I'm with is not my... What happened to first year, second year? What happened to the third year when we were dating? What happened to the times we broke up and I asked you, should we go back? How is the man that I'm with now not my own? Sir, please, rough play. But let me tell you something about God. Whether you choose to obey him or not, he will still be God. And he knows exactly what he's talking about. Because he has a plan for your life. The only thing you need to do is just walk in line with that plan. And so, there began my journey of, God, are you joking with me? I'm not 22, Lord. I'm not 25. We can't be having this conversation now. You're asking me to throw away something that I have invested in. And so I told God something. I said, well, the guy was a Christ lover, He was Christ, we say then. So he was a Christian, he was everything, and he was romantic. He was everything I thought I wanted. And he was a doctor in the UK. And a doctor in the UK. It's not bad. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but pound sterling looks good on me. I don't know. So, I'm just saying. So I had really planned out my life, but the problem with that is that the life is not mine to begin with. God had a plan. He knew exactly what he wanted to do with me. And in the wrong person's hand, it wouldn't work. And so I told God, well, let him end it. So we're having a conversation the next day, and the guy says to me, I don't know why I feel like I'm losing you. You know what? Let's just end this. 5 years old. I'm like, okay. And the next day he calls me back and says, doesn't know what came over him, that he's sorry. He's crying, I'm crying. He's saying, please. I'm saying, please. No, we can't go back. He's saying, please, let's go. I'm like, no, we can't do this. So eventually, God now said something to me. He said, so I asked God, I said, why? Because this guy is a great guy. He's romantic, like the kind that would open doors, send you flowers for no reason. You know those kind of guys? Yeah, pull out chairs for you, send you mixtapes. So now that I said mixtapes, you all know my age. So, that kind of guy that was everything you wanted. But God said no. And so I asked God one day, I said, this is not making sense to me. You said I should not be unequally yoked. I'm not unequally yoked. You said I should, we should have purpose, and I've done all those things. So why are you saying no? And then God said something to me. He said, ask him if you were a pastor, would he marry you? Even though at the time I didn't want to be a pastor, so I didn't understand what we were talking about. I'm like, oh, this is an easy challenge. He's born again, very easy. And the guy is begging me, so this is easy, sir. So I call him. We're having a conversation, and the guy is still talking about, I can't even imagine my life without you, blah, blah, blah. I really want us back together. So I said, okay, you know what? If I were a pastor, would you marry me? And he said no, without missing a beat. Straight. And so I said, wait, let me explain to you. You don't understand. This me that you are begging, that you want to spend the rest of life. The guy said, I didn't stutter. I said, if you were a pastor, I wouldn't marry you. He said, why would you want to be a pastor anyway? And then it occurred to me. The woman at the well had been with 5 men. 5 men. She was with a 6th. Not one of them recognized her for who she really was. A few seconds of conversation with Jesus, just a few minutes in the hand of the right man, and that woman became a world-class evangelist.